Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl. I just finished watching episode 1 of season 3 of Euphoria with Rue, Cassie, Sam Levinson, Faye, the whole bunch. And I have thoughts. I feel like I'm the only person that has anything good to say about the episode. And I actually took notes. I know it's reversed, but I'm going to be going through everything. All of the characters, my thoughts, what's good, what I don't like so far. For context, I watched season 2 when it came out, like I think in 2022. And I feel like I was so hesitant to watch season 3 because at that time of my life, I felt like I had manifested a life just like the one that involved Nate. And I believed it was because of like, maybe I willingly watched trash and that just manifested trash in my life. So maybe I shouldn't watch season 3 when it came out. But who was I kidding? I really wanted the drama. I was really excited to see Maddie beat Cassie's ass in previous seasons. And so I was just really curious to see what would happen now. Starting with Rue. The episode starts out with Rue basically smuggling drugs across the border of Mexico. And it's your same thrill-seeking, no accountability, completely reckless Rue that puts her life in danger again and again and again. We find out later that she's a drug mule now because Lori still wants her money paid, and so she's basically using Rue's body to get drugs across the border and deliver drugs and things like that. So Rue basically lies to everyone all over again, and it's really annoying because when she's out doing like these like her little escapades, she gets so much adrenaline because she's constantly putting herself in like life or death situations. Multiple times in the first episode, she's confronted with death and she cheats death. In fact, in the first episode, multiple people die because of drugs and she doesn't. So it just goes to show that like she's the one who's cheating death over and over. And I feel like we're gonna have some sort of theme in the rest of the season where we feel like Rue is given an opportunity to change, an opportunity to have that redemption arc. So excited to see that. Maud, that's the name of the actress. What's her name in the show? The bookworm girl. She is basically an assistant for like a TV producer, and she's still living through other people. She has very high standards for herself and how she wants to live. You see her apartment as a grown adult, and it is very similar to the actresses, like the real life actress, what her style is like. So I thought that was very interesting. She lives a very like modest, she has a very modest job. Get it? Modest. And she is still very well to do. Like, you can tell she still puts a lot of thought into everything she does. It's giving hyper perfection. And when she was younger, like in high school, she designed this stage where she kind of acted out a play. And even Cassie called her out on not having a life of her own. So she's like putting other people on blast for things that they did in their lives. So to me, her working on a TV set now that she's older is essentially the same thing again, where she gets to receive pleasure and enjoyment watching other people live their lives. And she has like a really big crush on one of the TV actors who doesn't even know her name. So it's kind of giving like wallflower, is that the word? Like, she's just another fly on the wall to these people, but she's there soaking in all of the attention. I don't know what kind of drama she's gonna have in her storyline, but there's that. I thought it was just very interesting. She transitioned from being on a stage to now on a set. Now I want to talk about Cassie, my girl Cassie. So Cassie's whole theme is that she just loves people's attention. She doesn't know how to live without receiving validation from other people. So she has successfully... Okay, here's the thing about her and Nate's relationship. They ended up together. They ended up sticking together till the end, which is the episode 1 of this season. And they have a really nice house. She's just, your stay-at-home, suburban, rich, hot mom, wife, because she's not a mom. And everything she's doing is for attention. I won't even call it clout. She just wants views. She wants people to adore her. She wants that validation from other people. Somehow, Nate, which I wrote about him right here. Where do you go? Nate is very patient. He doesn't have like that sort of temper that you saw in previous seasons. Whenever him and Cassie are arguing about the wedding, he's super calm. He's thinking about her emotions. He doesn't want to make a scene. And I just thought it was very interesting to see that Nate has a very like tempered patience and mindset the older he gets. Like, I kind of expected him and Cassie to have like an extremely tumultuous, violent, like screaming at each other type of relationship, like the kind that we saw when they were younger. I find it very fascinating that in this episode we see that Cassie basically only cares about appearances. She wants to get married with a wedding that has $50,000 worth of florals, and Nate's like, I'm not gonna pay $50,000. I don't have that money. We're not gonna do that. And she's like, well, I'm gonna start an OnlyFans. And to everyone else, I'm pretty sure, okay, if you're a girl in your mid-20s, you know at least one person, one girl in your life that thought, I can make money being a sugar baby. I can make money in OnlyFans. I could get money doing whatever with my looks or my body, right? Like, we know a girl that's done that. And I think it's just so funny that we see Cassie placing herself in the same the same time that you and I are living in 2026 and being like, maybe I should just start an OnlyFans. Like, I can make so much money just like sending men selfies and sending them good morning texts. She is very much manipulating Nate into letting her continue this weird streak of hers where no matter how much attention she's getting, it's not enough. She needs to make more and more. And also, Cassie's just stupid. Cassie's just, like, she acts very cunning when she's talking about, I'm going to manipulate Nate into giving me what I want, into what I need. But as calculated as she is, the choices that she's choosing, pure stupidity. You just have to watch it to understand that I'm not slandering her. It's just pure stupid decisions. And let's see what else. Faye, my favorite character from the previous seasons of Euphoria has been Faye. I love that she was casted from a porno. I love her look. I love her, like the lady in real life. I forgot her name. It's like Puppy Dog. Her username was like Puppy Love or something. I don't know. But Faye is my favorite character. I am so sad that they decided to make Faye such a serious sounding character in this episode or in this season, because that's not her. Faye has always been like this kind of like out of touch with reality, very airheaded, sort of like dry. Like, she's always like never fully like there, you know what I mean? But she's very like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I just love her vibe. She's just always down to chill. She's not a good person to be around, but her personality is just an easygoing personality. And in this episode, you see her kind of having a very serious edge to her tone and voice, which I don't know where that comes from. I personally don't like it. So I put a sad face next to Faye. Now for Nate's patient. Bishop is like, what do you call it? Like a henchman? A watchman? He's basically like, I don't know if you want to call him a security guard or what, but he just kind of, or like a butler. He works for Alamo, which is like this big guy he's a pimp. And now I'm going to talk about Rue and how this relates to Rue. But basically, Bishop, I put a heart and a question mark because he's a very silent observer. And I don't know if he is watching so much that he's going to end up having compassion for our main character, Rue, or if he's just, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Next, Ollie. I don't know if enabler is the right word, but Ollie just pisses me off because I think as much as he tries to be a mentor for Rue, I think he's just a device to show us how Rue is evolving. In her conversation with Ali in this episode, she brings up God and how she believes that having faith in God will make her happy, will kind of be the design of a blueprint for a better life for her. And I think Rue's whole theme right now, which is like the tone is being set by the first episode. And Rue, we see her like having all these crazy adrenaline filled escapades being a drug mule for Lori. When she goes to Lori's house, we're being shown scenes of all of the birds in Lori's house that are all in cages. These are exotic birds, very beautiful birds, but they're all in cages. And Rue is just like kind of like, what's going on here? I hate these. It makes her uncomfortable. And I think we're being shown that because it shows us that Rue feels like she's being completely trapped by Lori, which is true. She's basically like a slave. You see her like sleeping on a mattress on the floor. She anytime she goes and comes, she's always under watch, and she's just an object for Lori. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna talk about this, but I love Lori's character. I'm so glad that she's in this season. But anyways, so later in the episode, we saw the birds in the first part of the episode, right? Later in the episode, when everyone's having dinner at like the drug house, we see a rat like freely like running around while everyone's eating dinner. And to me, it just showed that like, okay, a rat is obviously very ugly compared to the exotic birds. However, the rat, the most disgusting animal you can think of while you're eating dinner, scuttling around your feet, running around, that is free. And I feel like that's just kind of setting the tone for this whole concept of what freedom will mean to Rue. Rue has so far been an addict. Like, she's still an addict. It hasn't shown her like using anything in this episode, but she's very much an addict that because of her addiction, she's chained to this life. She's chained to Lori, and Rue wants to find safety, happiness, and freedom. And first she turned to God. Once she did the drug drop off at Alamo's house, there's a bunch of like naked hot girls because Alamo's a pimp. And he just says that he hand selects like the girls that come to his house. And you know, it's just one of those scenes where like a bunch of like naked girls like in a swimming pool and they're just entertaining the guy. And Rue being gay, she's like, oh, maybe this is heaven. Like, maybe like I want to be a pimp too. Obviously she doesn't know what she's saying, even though she talks like she's a teenager. She's not. The episode is like a few years into the future after high school, but Rue kind of thinks maybe instead of working for Lori, I should go work for Alamo, because Alamo, like, the scenes are just very lively and happy, and the girls are just like, you know, naked or partially naked and having so much fun. Like, for a gay girl, like, that's where you'd want to be, right? But what Rue doesn't understand is that, well, one, we already see that she has escaped death with Lori multiple times being a drug mule, and she also escaped death with Alamo, which is a scene that happens at the very end of the episode. She pisses off Alamo. Alamo puts an apple on her head, shoots the apple, narrowly missing her head. And to me, that just shows how she thinks that going from Lori to Alamo will kind of like be better. She won't be like a hostage. She won't be working such a shitty job. But yet still, she's playing between life and death. In fact, when she delivered the drugs to Alamo, one of the girls there ended up dying, or overdosing, sorry, because the drugs that Rue delivered were laced with fentanyl. And Alamo tried killing her for it. So I think Rue's an idiot. Cassie's also stupid. Nate's a liar. He's lying to all the investors. Ollie doesn't know that Rue is lying to him and like everybody. So I just feel like it's a little bit frustrating to see how nobody is taking accountability. Nobody is being honest about what they're doing. Nobody is thinking about the long-term consequences of their actions. Everyone is just thinking about what can I get done right now. And maybe it's not fair to be upset about that, because when you're an adult and you have a job, you have to do taxes, you have to do your laundry, it can be really difficult to like sit down and reflect on what you're doing. But maybe that's the whole point of this season. Maybe we're going to see these characters being faced with some really big dilemmas or predicaments, and maybe we're going to see them stop and be forced to reflect and change. I believe that the whole theme of Rue trying to go from Lori to Alamo to talking about God with Ali, to lying to a very religious, happy family out in the middle of nowhere, like we're seeing her being met with this question of, are you really happy? What does it take to be happy? And I thought the reason why I talked about like being hesitant to watch Euphoria was because In a lot of ways, I felt back then that my life was out of control in terms of just how like crazy and toxic it was. And I definitely was around bad people. I definitely was making bad decisions. And I think once you make one bad decision, it kind of creates a slippery slope for any bad decisions in the future that you might make. Because, okay, I'm not going to say weed is the gateway drug, but think about this example, right? Um, I used to argue that weed is like totally fine. I live in California. Everyone here smokes weed. And also living in Silicon Valley, like everyone's doing everything from like weed to psilocybin, if that's even how you pronounce it, to like microdosing. Like I don't know, the culture here is very much relaxed, especially around like herbal stuff. So let's say I say yes to weed. Why not I say yes to the next thing, which would be I don't even know. But eventually, so for example, when I was living on the West Coast, I'd be offered weed like all the time, right? When you go out, you're a pretty girl, like. And then when I went over to the East Coast, nobody smokes weed. Everyone does coke. So when you're at these parties, people are always offering you coke. So that was very interesting to me. I'm like, why don't you guys just smoke weed like a normal chill person? Like, why are we jumping? You know what I mean? So it's all relative, is what I'm trying to say. And because I was always going out partying and around people that also thought it was okay to do certain substances or to have certain people in their lives or date a certain way or interact with other humans in a certain way, that really affected me because I thought, oh, if this is okay, I can participate in it at least a little bit. So what ended up happening was I ended up just around like bad people. And not because I thought these are my people, it's just this was convenient and like I don't want to be alone. And so I ended up with a lot of pain because these people ended up being like insane and destroying me. So much so that I basically had to stop school. It was really hard. I had to move back home. I was in a really bad place. Anxiety and depression, like the levels were just breaking the scale. All because I decided to interact with someone and certain people that were just not good for me. I knew better, but just, all the messaging that you're being told as like I said, like back then I watched Euphoria, you know what I mean? Not saying that everything on Euphoria I thought was okay, but I thought this was just part of living in your 20s. So, yeah, like because of that, since 2022, it's been 4 years now. I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped going out, no edibles, no smoking weed, like nothing. And I'm not saying like I was doing it a lot. It was very rare, but the people I was around would do it a lot. My best friend would do it every day, if not a lot. So to me, a lot of things are normalized, is what I'm trying to say. And because I hit a point in my life that was super scary and I just didn't know how to move forward, I just decided to like stop everything. And I'm really glad that I did because while yes, it felt sucky to always stay at home on a Friday night and like Christmas would go by, no Christmas parties. New Year's would go by, no New Year's parties. No romance for Valentine's Day. Spring break, like who is she? Summer break, never going out. Not having a 2016 summer. Like I was really just keeping myself away from the life that I used to live and it sucked. But I'm glad because I learned a lot about who I am. I learned a lot about what I really want out of life. I learned that I really value family. I learned that I really do feel calmer around animals and that I really like being around animals sometimes more than people. I learned that I'm actually not an extrovert and that the number of people that I like are actually very few and far between. I love nature. I love surfing. I love going out. I love hiking. When I say going out, I mean like going out in nature. You know what I mean? And I end up making friends that I have things in common with and that I can actually be myself around. Before, I always felt like I was a very pretty face and that I had to constantly just keep putting on a front to show people that I am worth giving attention to. And that kind of all went away. And I'm glad. And also coincidentally, throughout all of this, I really developed a relationship with God, and I started reading the Bible. I started exploring a lot of different other parts of spirituality that I just didn't have any knowledge about before. And I'm really glad that I did, because faith, like having faith and having a good positive attitude about like knowing that there's something bigger than me that's there with me and guiding me, even though I don't always understand it from like a human perspective, that's one of like the strongest pillars that I have, and I don't know how I'd be able to function as an adult without it. So in a way, like I wouldn't say that I'm glad for the things that I went through in the past, because they were actually really trash. But without the things that I went through, I wouldn't have made a complete 180, gone to the other side of the spectrum, and just kind of like isolated myself and only relied on like family, God, and myself, because doing that allowed me to see life from a different perspective, and now I am living a different life. So seeing Rue kind of going through like similar things that I went through, albeit hers is on a much more extreme scale, and also she's going from California to Mexico, California to Mexico. I didn't have any of that. I'm like hoping that some of the good stuff from my story is also reflected in hers, and that we do see a redemption arc. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like really pissed off with Rue constantly just being the same girl that she was when she kind of was doing season 1 and season 2, just very much chasing the highs, lying to everybody, just kind of going with whatever her emotions tell her to do, and also just going for the thrill of things. Not happy with adult Rue doing that, because it's like, at what point do you get tired of it? Especially when you see such heavy themes of like actually people dying. It's not so much like how I don't know how to finish that sentence. But yeah, thanks for listening to my video. The whiteboard is now clean, so I've got all my thoughts out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you guys so much. Mwah.